Olivia and the Secret of the Water Steps, a calm story about courage, goals, and learning in Dreamland. Welcome to the Safe Den. The Safe Den is a place for children, teenagers, and adults who sometimes need somewhere gentle to land. A place where there is no need to hurry. A place with room for big feelings, long thoughts, and small pauses. Here, we tell calm and heartwarming stories about unease, courage, presence, and safety. Stories that do not rush, stories that help inner pictures become softer, clearer, and more hopeful. This story is about Olivia. She follows the familiar path through the forest. She meets the Dream Master, Bridgehold, Elara, Unease the Owl, and the Master Builder. And she takes her first steps toward learning the secret of the water steps. And now, we begin. The path was already there, as if it had been waiting for her all evening. It wound through the forest in a soft silver glow, resting on the moss like dew made from stardust. The air felt cool and pleasant against her skin, and it smelled of wet bark, pine needles, and that slightly sweet scent of the forest floor, just as night begins to unfold. Above her the sky was deep and dark blue, but it did not feel heavy. It shimmered, small stars blinked between the treetops like kind eyes, and somewhere far away Olivia could hear a stream singing quietly to itself in the dark. Olivia stood completely still at the beginning of the path and felt something inside her pulling forward. Not only curiosity, something larger, as if her chest was filled with tiny warm lights, and all of them were whispering the same thing. Go now. You are meant to go on. Something is waiting for you. So she took the first step. The ground beneath her shoes was soft and lightly springy. The path was lined with little flowers that only bloomed at night. Pale purple forest bells, silver anemones with petals like thin glass, and tiny starflowers that smelled of honey and rain. Whenever Olivia walked past them, they closed a little and then opened again behind her, almost as if they were nodding goodnight. Deeper in the forest, the sounds became clearer. Leaves rustled gently, a night bird called from somewhere above, and small unseen animals slipped through the ferns. Her own footsteps sounded rhythmic and safe against the earth. It felt as if the path knew her, as if it understood that she had not come here only to walk. She had come to learn something, to become something, to begin a journey that did not yet have a name. Then she reached a bend where the trees stood closer together. The air was colder here, and the warm scent of the forest suddenly mixed with something else. A faint metallic smell of wet stone, old mist, and something that did not quite belong. The wind changed too. It became narrow and sharp, as if it were in a hurry to squeeze between the branches. The path ahead of her looked different now. It was the same path, and yet it was not. The trees leaned farther over it, and their branches looked like hands. The shadows grew longer and more crooked. The darkness between the trunks became deeper, almost liquid. The flowers along the edge closed completely. Even the sounds changed. The stream was gone. The friendly nightbird had fallen silent. Instead, there was a low creaking sound, as if the forest were breathing through old, tired hinges. Olivia felt a hollow pull in her stomach. The dream was slipping. The path was beginning to turn into a nightmare. At first, it was only small things. A root that looked like a finger. A branch that looked like a claw. An echo of her own footsteps that arrived half a second too late, as if someone were following her. Then the thoughts came. What if I have gone the wrong way? What if the path does not want me? What if I am not the kind of person who belongs here? What if the dark only gets worse? Olivia took one step backward, and that was when it happened. The shadows stretched farther across the path like black smoke. The tree trunks grew taller. The darkness lifted from the ground and shaped itself into foggy creatures with no faces, only long arms made of night and gazes that could not be seen, but could still be felt. Then a voice rang out, clear, warm, and bright, like a small bell in the middle of the dark. No, not that way. A golden shimmer swept across the path like someone had lit a candle behind closed doors. The shadows stopped, and a figure stepped forward between the trees. In a single moment, the forest changed. It was the Dream Master. She came walking as if she had always known exactly where Olivia was. Her cloak was as dark as the night sky, but stitched with tiny stars that moved slowly across the fabric. Around her hands lay a warm golden glow, and her steps were so calm that even the ground beneath her seemed to breathe more deeply. She smiled, not a loud, wide smile, a quiet smile. A smile that said, "I have seen this before. You are not alone." "Nightmares often begin like this," said the Dream Master, looking out over the black shadows. "With a small feeling you do not notice at first, an unsafe thought, a cold place in the chest, an idea that is allowed to grow larger than it really needs to be." She lifted her hand, and the light spread over the path. The shadows became forest mist. The trees straightened. The flowers opened again. The metallic smell disappeared and was replaced by moss, bark, and the sweet scent of night flowers. Suddenly the path was beautiful again. "How did you do that?" Olivia whispered. The Dream Master knelt in front of her. "I taught the dream that I was not afraid of it," she said. "And even more important than that, I taught myself that I was allowed to stay inside the dream and change it." Olivia looked at her with wide eyes. "Can you really learn that?" The Dream Master nodded. "Yes, and some people learn something even rarer." "Like what?" Olivia asked. The Dream Master pointed farther down the path, where the forest opened and the moonlight fell in wide silver bands over ferns and stones. "Like walking on water," she said, "not as a trick, not just because it looks beautiful, but because it means you have found a way between fear and trust, between what you cannot do yet and what you are brave enough to learn." Olivia felt a small leap in her stomach. "Can I learn it?" "I believe so," said the Dream Master. "In fact, I think that is exactly why you have come here tonight. To begin." Just as she said this, there was a rushing sound above the trees. Over the treetops came a boy, gliding through the air. He flew low above the branches, his arms held lightly away from his body, as if the air carried him because he had learned how to listen to it. He tipped, drifted, rose a little, pressed gently against the wind, folded his arms, and then glided down again in a beautiful curve, like a bird that knew every movement in the sky. Moonlight flashed in his hair. He smiled down at them as he passed over the path, and for one short moment it almost looked as if he stood still in the air, just long enough to wave. Then he drifted down behind the hill and disappeared between the dark trees with one smooth, easy movement. "Was that him?" Olivia asked. "Yes," said the Dream Master, "the boy who learned the forgotten flying technique. He is still practicing, but he has come far." Olivia kept looking after him. "So you really can learn all these things?" "Yes," said the Dream Master, "if you keep going, if you listen, if you are brave enough to begin as an apprentice." They walked farther down the path together. The farther they went, the more the forest opened. The trees grew taller but also kinder. Lanterns made of dew glass hung from the branches, and in their warm light Olivia could see small beings scurrying between roots and stones. Some looked like little clumps of moss with amber eyes. Some had hands made of leaves and small bell-like voices. Others were round and soft, like wandering chestnuts, and smelled faintly of cinnamon and rain. One of them rolled across the path and stopped in front of Olivia. It held out a small shiny stone that glimmered with a faint blue light. "What is it?" she asked. "It is a listening stone," said the Dream Master. "It grows warm in your hand when you are truly listening, not only with your ears, but with all of you." Olivia placed the stone in her pocket. A little farther on, a figure stood waiting beneath an arch of woven branches. He was so large that at first he looked like an old tree. But then he moved, and Olivia saw that he was a being. His shoulders were as broad as a doorway, and his body was built of bark, roots, moss, and old wood. His eyes glowed like amber beneath thick, kind brows, and in his beard sat tiny dried leaves and flower seeds. He smelled of forest after rain and of freshly cut wood. "Bridgehold," said the Dream Master softly. The great being placed one hand on his chest and bowed slightly. "So this is Olivia," he said, in a voice that sounded like deep forest, thick timber, and hearthstones slowly warming by a fire. "The new one who came all the way into the path without turning back." Olivia looked up at him. "I almost turned back," she admitted. "Most do," said Bridgehold. "Courage does not mean that you never become afraid. Courage means going on, even when something inside you wants to run. Beside Bridgehold stood another figure very different from him. She was long, slender, and quiet. Her cloak looked as if it had been woven from silver mist, reeds, and moonlight. Her hair fell over her shoulders like pale grey water, and her eyes were clear as a lake where you could see your reflection in the early morning. Small pearls of dew were sewn into her sleeves, and when she moved, she sounded like reeds brushing gently against one another in the wind. "This," said the Dream Master, "is Elara." Olivia repeated the name slowly. "Elara." The Dream Master smiled. "She taught me the first things. How to stay inside dreams when they change, how to read water, and how to feel when something is beginning to become what you have longed for." Elara smiled at Olivia with a gaze that was both gentle and completely awake. "You carry many ideas," she said. Olivia frowned a little. "How do you know?" "I can hear it," said Elara. "When someone carries a large mind, they sound different. Not loud, not always clearly, but with many small currents inside them, many paths, many possible worlds. And you are such a person." Olivia could not quite explain it, but the words made her warm in the chest, as if something she had never had words for had suddenly been seen. "Come," said Elara, "the master builder is waiting." They followed the path downward, and the forest began to change again. Not into something frightening, into something even more magical. The trees stood in a circle around a clearing, and in the middle of the moonlight hung bridges made of timber, rope, and star lanterns. Farther out, Olivia could see open water, still as dark blue glass. Above the water floated little islands like lanterns in the sky. Some were close, and others were far away. On one of them, new buildings stood half-finished, with towers, bridges, and small windows already glowing gold. The sounds here were wonderful. There were deep, safe thuds from wood being set into place, creaking beams, tightening ropes, small bell sounds of tools touching metal, a low rumble from wheels, gears, and old lifting machines. It was not noise. It was more like a great song of building, as if everything was becoming something. And there he stood, the master builder. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with hands that looked as if they could carry planks, ideas, and entire dreams without dropping any of them. His apron was covered in sawdust, stardust, and little drawings tucked into the pocket. His hair stuck up in funny tufts, and his eyes shone the way eyes shine when someone is in the middle of something they love. All around him, children and dream beings worked together. Some carried ropes, some measured, some drew, some screwed tiny lanterns along the bridges. A small, quick creature with wings made of dried leaves carried nails in a basket. A round little being with bark skin and sprouts in its hair rolled past with gears in its arms. A bluish light bird hovered above a new beam, leaving a glittering trail so they could see where the next plank should go. "Ah," the master builder called when he saw them. "There you are, Olivia." "You know my name?" she asked. "Of course," he said. "We do not build new islands for just anyone." Olivia looked at the Dream Master in surprise. "Build new islands?" The master builder spread his arms with a proud, laughing movement. "Yes, this one," he said, pointing across the water to the half-finished island. "It is being built for someone who must learn something important. Someone with many ideas. Someone who must learn to place her feet where others think you can only sink." Olivia stared. "For me?" "For you," said Elara calmly. "It does not have a name yet," said the master builder. "It will receive its name only when you have taken your first true step on the water." Olivia walked to the edge of the dock and looked out. The water was dark, but not black. Down in the deep silver threads shimmered as if the moon had dropped its longest strands into it. The air tasted fresh and slightly salty, not quite like the sea, more like dream water, something between lake, sky, and mirror. "Can you really walk out there?" Olivia asked quietly. "Yes," said the Dream Master, "but not by stamping, not by rushing, not by trying to defeat the water." "Then how?" asked Olivia. "By meeting it," said the Dream Master. Elara walked to a low chest made of dark wood and opened it. Inside, on soft blue-grey felt, lay 4 things. A small bowl shaped like a leaf. A band woven from silver thread and reeds. a pair of light shoes, soft as clouds, with soles sewn from something that looked like glittering fish scales, and a round drop-shaped stone, clear as ice, with a golden light in the center. "This is the beginner's set," said Elara, "not for cheating, for remembering." She lifted the bowl first. "This is the safety bowl. Before you walk on water, you drink from it. Not because it holds a magic potion, but because it reminds you to feel your own pace." Then she lifted the band. "This is the direction band. When you doubt which way to go, it grows warm against your skin if the direction is true for you." Next came the shoes. "These are not floating shoes," said Elara with a small smile. "They cannot walk for you, but they help you feel the surface of the water more gently." At last she placed the drop-shaped stone in Olivia's hand. "And this," she said, "is the water heart. It only shines when you walk with trust. Not perfectly, and not without fear, but with trust." Olivia stood looking down at the things in her hands. They were beautiful, but more than that, they felt right, as if something inside her already knew what they were for. "Should I do it now?" Olivia whispered. "No," said Elara, "not quite yet. First you must understand what it means." They sat at the edge of the bridge. The water lapped softly below them. The sounds of building continued around them, heavy beams, creaking tools, small giggles from the little beings, and ropes tightening with singing sounds. It smelled of wet wood, sawdust, warm resin, and night flowers growing in pots along the bridge. "Walking on water is not only about water," said Elara. Olivia looked up. "It is about choosing a path, about believing in a direction so deeply that you dare to place the weight of your whole self on the next step." The Dream Master nodded. "I first learned it on the day I understood that the goal was not to be flawless. The goal was to keep going." "And if you fall in?" Olivia asked. "Then you learn from that too," said the Master Builder, who had come closer with a wide plank over his shoulder. "I have built hundreds of bridges that had to be remade, towers that tilted, wheels that turned crookedly, islands that only became good after I had made enough mistakes to understand them." He leaned the plank aside and sat down heavily, so the bridge gave a pleasant thud. "Everything good is built little by little." "And by listening," said a familiar voice from above. Unease the owl glided silently down and settled on a post by the bridge. Her eyes were large and gentle in the lantern light. "Listening to what?" asked Olivia. "To the water," said Unease the owl. "To the wind, to the fear, to the longing, and to the part of you that already knows what you dream of becoming." Olivia held the water heart a little closer in her hand. It felt warm now, very faintly, but clearly. Elara stood and reached out her hand. "Come, Olivia." They walked out onto a low platform at the very edge of the water. There was no railing here, only sky, water, and moonlight. The Dream Master stood on one side of Olivia and Elara on the other. Behind them, Olivia could hear the others continuing their work on the island. Rumbling wheels, creaking timber, and small voices from beings working together. It sounded so safe that she could feel her courage grow just by hearing it. "Close your eyes," said Elara. Olivia did. "What do you dream of?" Olivia stood for a moment, then the words came. "To learn something difficult. To keep going, even when I doubt myself. To do something because it matters. To become really good at something I have chosen for myself." Elara's voice became even softer. "And how does that feel?" "Like warm light in here," said Olivia, placing her hand on her chest, "and a little like I am nervous and happy at the same time." "That is a good place to begin," said Elara. "Open your eyes." The water in front of Olivia glittered. The moon lay across it like a long, narrow road of silver. "Now you do not place your foot on the water to test whether you can," said the Dream Master. "You place it there because you are willing to learn." Olivia took a deep breath. The air was cool and smelled of night and water. She felt the soft shoes around her feet. She felt the direction band around her wrist. She felt the water heart in her pocket. Then she lifted one foot, hesitated, and carefully placed it out over the edge. The water did not give way. It held her. Not hard like stone, not soft like mud, more like a tense surface of living light, receiving her weight and trembling slightly beneath her. Olivia gasped. She was standing, only with one foot, but she was standing. Behind her, the master builder clapped so loudly that a whole group of little beings jumped in surprise and then laughed. There, did you see that? Olivia laughed nervously. Yes, I did it. You began, Elara corrected gently, and somehow that felt even better. Then Olivia placed her other foot out. This time she wobbled more. The water fluttered beneath her like a mirror someone had touched. She waved her arms, lost her focus, and… splash! She was standing in water up to her knees. It was not cold. In fact, it was surprisingly warm, like water that had remembered the sun, even though it was night. She stood there blinking. Then the Dream Master began to laugh. Not mockingly, only warmly and lovingly. Soon Olivia was laughing too. So was the Master Builder, and Bridgehold, whose laughter sounded like deep tree stumps rolling down a hill. Even Unease the Owl seemed to smile with her whole face. Good, said Elara, very good. But I fell in, said Olivia, wiping water from her hands. Yes, said Elara, and now you know that you can survive that too. They practiced for a long time, not until Olivia mastered it, only until she felt the difference. The difference between stepping out with fear alone and stepping out with a direction inside her. Sometimes she stood for only 1 second, sometimes 2. Once she took 3 tiny steps before splashing in again, and the whole dock cheered so loudly that the light birds flew up like sparks. When the night deepened and the sky became almost black-blue with milky white bands of stars across it, they all sat together on the half-finished island. The Master Builder had laid the last great planks for the night, and the whole place smelled of new wood, sawdust, warm oil for the gears, and herbal tea, which a little being in a bark cloak poured from a copper kettle. Olivia sat with a blanket around her shoulders and looked out over the water. When do I become an apprentice? She asked. Elara sat beside her. You have already begun. Olivia looked at her in surprise. Really? Elara nodded. Apprentices are not the ones who can do everything. Apprentices are the ones who have said yes to the path. The Dream Master placed a hand on Olivia's shoulder. And you said yes the moment you stayed on the path, even when it became dark. The Master Builder pointed out at the new island. And when one day you walk all the way across the water to that island without sinking, it will receive its name. What do you think it will be called? Asked Olivia. The Master Builder shrugged with a grin. Only the island knows that, and perhaps a little bit of you. Bridgehold leaned forward. But I can tell you one thing, he said. It will be strong, because it is not being built only from timber and rope. It is being built from will. Olivia leaned forward and looked up at the sky. She could still hear the building work faintly somewhere behind her, small thuds, calm creaks, and ropes singing in the wind. Farther away, water whispered against the island's edge. The trees around them stood like dark, gentle giants. The night smelled of forest, water, and that loving clarity that only exists in dreams just before you understand something important. Olivia thought about the path that had become frightening, about the Dream Master who had changed it back, about the boy who had flown over the treetops, about the Master Builder who built islands out of ideas, about Elara who could hear that Olivia carried many paths inside her. And for the first time, Olivia did not feel that Dreamland was only a place you could visit. She felt that it was also a place that could grow inside her, a place where you were allowed to learn slowly, where you were allowed to fall in, where you were allowed to dream of something for a long time and keep going until the dream finally began to carry you. Elara's voice came softly beside her. Remember this, Olivia. When someone learns to walk on water in dreams, it does not only mean they have learned a special art, it means they have found the courage to move towards something that is not yet firm. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment and felt the words land inside her. So maybe, she whispered, I can learn it. Elara's hand rested lightly over hers. You can. The Dream Master smiled. And one day, perhaps you will show the way for others. Across the water, the moonlight ran like a long silver path all the way to the new island. Olivia looked at it and imagined what it would be like to stand calmly, to place one foot in front of the other, to feel the water carry her, and to feel the goal become clear. Not because it was easy, but because she had chosen it. She smiled into the night. And far out on the dark blue surface, it almost sounded as if the water answered her. Not with words, but with small living rings of light that spread across the surface, as if the dream had already begun practicing with her. Good night. Sleep very well. Thank you for reading with the Safe Den.